So I've got a few slides to go through. What I'd like to do this morning is just take you through a little bit of an introduction, a bit of the facts around the apprenticeship, and then hopefully Zoe can give us some input and AAT point of view on the importance of the Level 2 apprenticeship, where it fits, and how it's being used. And then I can take us through the detail of how we're delivering the Level 2 apprenticeship. Now, please do ask questions through the chat box if you've got anything for myself or for Zoe. Ask away. We're here to make sure that you've got the information that you need to consider whether the Level 2 apprenticeship is appropriate for your learners, for your business. So let me share my screen. As standard, I have a set of slides. Have a shift around so I can still see a chat box for any questions. So as Gareth was talking about, we're in a situation where things have changed and are continuing to change with our new qualification. For those of you who have joined our sessions that we've been running about Qualifications 22, we will have gone through a lot of this in detail and a lot of the content in detail. If you haven't joined one of those sessions, we are still running more over the next couple of months, so do register for those. Also, as Gareth was talking about the lockdown, the impact of the last couple of years on our young people that are coming into this industry, they may not have been able to sit exams, let alone understand what a professional exam environment is going to look like, and therefore building confidence at the start is going to be really important. Personally, I've seen more discussion around exam anxiety than I have had done before. And that will be caused by the situation over the last couple of years, the lack of exam experience. So we've got a number of things that mean that the Level 2 is more interesting, it's more relevant perhaps for those who are starting out in a finance career. So a few facts. The Level 2 standard, as it stands now, the development for this started back in 2016. I was lucky enough to be part of the Trailblazer group that was looking at the development of it, so involved in those conversations around who it was for, or who it is for, and what the content of it is and how it will be assessed through that endpoint assessment. I did work with Zoe on this as well, so Zoe was also involved as part of this Trailblazer group. So hopefully, between the two of us, we can answer any questions that you might have. Zoe, feel free to chip in if I do miss anything out or I haven't quite got it correct. It involved a whole load of employers and educational experts. There was a lot of people who were involved in this Trailblazer group to make sure that the Level 2 standard was appropriate for that current role in finance. And a lot was done to make sure that it was appropriate for the right levels of jobs, that it was appropriate to give the skills, the knowledge and the behaviours that were needed for that entry-level position in finance, whether that's in practice or in industry. So the standard was approved back in July 2019. As Gareth mentioned, uptake on this has been fairly low. I think we had certainly formed quite a habit of using the Level 2 bookkeeping units as a fast track into the Level 3. And I think under AQ16, that's been very appropriate to do. It did miss out some elements, so the computerized accounts element and the costing element, but a lot of that was then covered at an introductory level in AQ16 Level 3. With the change in syllabus, as Gareth has mentioned, that has changed a bit. We have got less duplication in the new syllabus. We've got more relevant topics being tested at an appropriate level. So that need to have the baseline knowledge and build on has become more important now. Some of the jobs that we identified as being the appropriate job for the Level 2 apprenticeship. This list is by no means exhaustive, but this was what we had come up with. So just to give you an idea of the kinds of positions that the Level 2 apprenticeship is aimed at. The funding band for level 2 is 6,000, and this is where we have something different with the level 2 apprenticeship to what we do with levels 3, 4 and 7. The qualification is mandated. So the AAT qualification has to be completed in full on programme before Gateway. And this means that the EPA will sit outside of the qualification. The qualification is completed prior to Gateway, and then the EPA is in addition. At the time, this was something quite different, but as we see with the introduction of Qualifications 22, actually the qualification is going to be completed on programme for levels 3 and 4 as well, and the EPA will sit outside. So this isn't going to seem like anything different as we're moving into the new qualification from September. But it is still different that it is mandated. Duration, it has to be at least 12 months before a learner can pass through Gateway. And we would expect learners to be ready to go through Gateway at 12 months. So we're looking at a 13-month duration for the level 2 apprenticeship. And there's just a little bit there about the English and maths standards that's appropriate to this level. So Zoe, if I could, before I go through the detail of what we're delivering and how we're delivering it, if I could hand over to you to give your thoughts on where this apprenticeship fits and how it was developed and how employers are using it.
Yes, thank you. So I think for a lot of the assistant accountant level 3 apprenticeship had been developed earlier, and it is an excellent apprenticeship with the qualification taught alongside it, and it's a really good structure for somebody who is at that level 3 role. But it was identified that actually employers felt that there was still an entry-level role within an accounts function or a finance team that did need to be able to have somebody that had some training, accountancy training, but also supporting from a general administrative point of view. So it was a very separate role that was being looked at, and so more of an entry-level role into the finance team that's a supportive role, so in that role as an accounts assistant. And so it felt like there was a lack of a position. So for this earlier entry point start that was needed to be developed as a standalone opportunity for people coming in. So potentially for people who were more of your school leavers or people who hadn't got any experience in accountancy, working in accounts, or even in work in general. And I think that's definitely something that because of the pandemic, we have seen a lot more young people that don't have that general business understanding or ability, you know, even the social aspects. And so that is going to be able to help them to be able to do that. So the apprenticeship at level 2 was to be able to help people to develop things like communication skills, to be able to look at their own personal effectiveness and team working at an earlier point, as well as having the double entry bookkeeping knowledge for them to be able to understand those initial accounting tasks that were going to be needed, which then enabled your level 3 apprentices to be able to focus on the higher level activities for them to do. So there is sort of somebody to support them to be able to do those data entry positions activities at the beginning. So it was something that the employers came together. They'd seen that that was something that they did want to be developed, which is why the employer group was created. And so I think it's something that it is a good addition to the apprenticeship options that there are. Yeah, is there anything else? So yeah, we have seen that initially. I think that it was a slow uptake, as Crystal said, but we are definitely more and more hearing from employers that they are looking for somebody to start at that level 2 apprenticeship role. But it's not discounting the fact that they are offering different roles within their departments for the level 3 and the level 4 apprenticeships as well.
Lovely. And so you touched on kind of some of those skills and behaviours that are needed in that entry level for someone who's just coming into the world of work. As Gareth mentioned as well, that we've got people coming in who haven't particularly had the opportunities that are normally there to experience work. So whether that's a part-time work in hospitality or whether it's a part-time job getting some experience working in an office, Also have been very restricted, as have colleges, on the work experience that they've been able to offer people. So as you mentioned, people are coming in new to the world of work. And I think the Level 2 apprenticeship really supports that initial development of those entry-level skills. So I've just put up on the screen here what's included in the standard. So the knowledge, as we would expect, this is looking at a Level 2 in a finance role. So there is going to be business and accounting processes and bookkeeping, as well as the all-important ethics included in the knowledge. We've then got those skills and behaviour, and as Zoe touched on there, we've got that communication skill, which is really important. And I know that certainly on speaking to employers, there has been more issue with that communication, that confidence in communicating verbally, telephone, face-to-face meetings, and personal effectiveness, taking responsibility for making sure that timekeeping is accurate, that an individual is able to manage their workload effectively on their own. Some skills that might have been learned through that work experience previously, and certainly people coming into a professional environment really need. And then some behaviours around working in teams, professionalism, and dealing with customers. So I'm really pleased with this standard and how it looks. I think it's got a really good balance of fundamental finance skills, so our kind of basic accounting, understanding the systems and getting to grips with those principles around general business, and then those skills and behaviours that are really needed to be able to operate in a professional environment. So this is what's in the standard. For the endpoint assessment, as I mentioned, qualification is mandated, so the endpoint assessment is sitting outside of the qualification, and that's completed after gateway. That includes an in-tray assessment and a structured interview that is based on a portfolio. Now, neither of those are particularly different to what we've seen before. So the in-tray test, it's got a different name, but it is that test of knowledge and skill that will be undertaken under exam conditions. The development of a portfolio on programme to show competence against all of these skills and behaviours, which we currently do at level 3 and 4 as well. And a structured interview, so slightly different to the professional conversation or professional discussion in that it is slightly more structured, more expectation set, so learners know a little bit more about how that's going to run, which we would expect at level 2. So a little bit about how we're going to be delivering it. We've got our 12 months on programme, qualification included there, and then we're also including an impact skills programme. It starts right at the very start of induction with a welcome to the world of work. So giving that understanding of what your employer expects in terms of your behaviours, things that you can expect you're going to have to take responsibility for yourself. And then throughout the programme, we've got personal effectiveness, working in teams, business environment, and producing and communicating quality information. So those will map to those skills and behaviours that are in the standard, and those impact skills sessions, they're workshop based and they're designed to enhance those skills and also build confidence in those areas. And for those of you who have learners with us on level 3 will know that we have that impact skills programme running at each level. So these are those entry level introductory skills that are then built on a little bit later. All of that's completed on programme, and then that's followed by our endpoint assessment. A little reminder of the qualification for if you haven't attended one of our Quals 22 sessions, the level 2 has changed for Quals 22, which becomes available from the 1st of September for new registrations. We've now got the business environment, which is a really important paper and looks at the internal and external environment of a business, the impact that it has, principles of costing, giving an introduction to costing, plus bringing in some spreadsheets now, And then we've got our 2 bookkeeping units that aren't dramatically different to what we currently have, but they do include those digital bookkeeping skills in there as well. So there's an introduction into digital bookkeeping, plus there's sort of been a few bits that have moved around as well. And just to highlight along the bottom, we have these key themes. So technology, communication, ethics and sustainability. Themes within the qualification also very aligned to what we have in our standard there as well. So before I rattle on with any other slides, does anyone have any questions? Pop them through the chat box, or Zoe, if you've got anything to add about the content of that apprenticeship there.
I think, just as Crystal has said, the correlation between what is now being taught and developed within the AAT qualification sits really well to match and meet the additional skills and behaviours that's required as part of the apprenticeship. So the delivery of the two together really provides a very supportive environment for your apprentice to be able to help them with developing what they need to be successful with their AAT qualification, and then to be able to have those additional qualities that they're displaying then as your employee, you know, to be able to help with that supportive development from them right from the very beginning. So yeah, we hope that it works very well for you.
Definitely, it definitely does feel very integrated, what's in the qualification with the apprenticeship. It doesn't feel like they're two things that are separated from each other. There's a good alignment there. Definitely. So as I mentioned, we've got those impact skills programs, workshop based, designed to build those skills. What we're also doing is including a zero certification within the level 2 apprenticeship, recognizing that for the level 2 qualification with AAT, understanding digital bookkeeping systems, cloud accounting, and just the general use of digital technologies in a finance role is really important, and include zero certification will really support achievement of the level 2 qualification, as well as meeting those skills and behaviours as well. And we've included zero. Some learners may have experience with other software packages. There is definitely no harm in knowing how more than one works, and also being able to understand how reporting and using the data that comes out of these systems, I think, is really important, and the zero certification demonstrates that nicely. So we have included that. So who should be using this this apprenticeship? Well, for those who are coming in without any accounting or business knowledge, so if someone hasn't done A-level or GCSE accounting or business studies, level 2 teaches them those fundamentals. Level 2 is also a really good first point that enables a learner to then progress onto those later studies at level 3 or level 4, giving them the fundamentals, building their confidence, and therefore putting them in a great position to do the level 3 apprenticeship afterwards. For those people who have missed out on doing exams, the level 2 is an opportunity for them to come in and sit some exams and build that confidence. At level 2, we've got the 2 bookkeeping units that are broken down. There's 2 units there, therefore the exams are manageable. When we look at level 3 under the new syllabus, that first financial paper, it's big. It's a really big exam. It covers a lot of learning outcomes, and therefore learners are going to find it more challenging. So actually the level 2 is a great opportunity to build that confidence. Just general confidence as well coming into the workplace. Without those opportunities for work experience, it's all very new. Understanding, knowing how to behave, not being reliant on the employer to point out when things aren't being done appropriately or behaviours aren't there. This gives learners that extra confidence to build those skills and behaviours and to take them into the workplace. They'll practice things in a safe environment, practice team working, practice presentations, different types of communication to then take into the workplace and be able to kind of hit the ground running. Good for the employer, but also good for the learner's confidence as well. And Welcome to the World of Work, I think, gives some of those real fundamentals that are needed. Who's it for? Looking at recruitment, someone who doesn't have any prior experience or prior knowledge. So someone who perhaps hasn't done A-level in accounting or business studies, this is going to be really important for them to do to learn those fundamentals. Someone who hasn't experienced the exams at that level. Level 2 can still be used as a bit of a fast track. So it could be done as a commercial option and therefore into the level 3 apprenticeship. But the level 2 apprenticeship does build in those skills and behaviours as well. So we are offering both the commercial route for level 2, but also the apprenticeship route as well. For those of you who joined us for some of our Q2022 discussions, forums that we've had, you might recognise my diagram where we looked at those different points that people could be entering at depending on what their prior knowledge, prior studies were. And as you'll see here, I've highlighted, or lowlighted, all those areas where the level 2 apprenticeship may be an appropriate route. Not saying it definitely is. Assessment of that learner on an individualised basis is important, but those who perhaps have come down one of these routes that I've shown, the level 2 could be that appropriate starting point for them. The level 2 as an apprenticeship might be an appropriate start point. So I will share these slides so you have this information to look back on, and also this diagram may be useful when you're looking at where do I start my learner, what would be an appropriate point for them. Is the level 2 apprenticeship the right route? So this might be useful. Last slide wasn't what I was expecting, not what I wanted to discuss. So level 2 apprenticeship is available. There is still the option to fast track, so during the level 2 faster, not as an apprenticeship, or utilising some units to fill gaps in knowledge before moving on to level 3 will still be appropriate for some learners and some of those high achievers. But as Gareth was talking about at the start, being very aware of the situation that some learners may be coming through without that experience and without that exam exposure. So Zoe, can I ask you, is there anything else that I've probably missed, or anything else that you could add?
I think you've done a fantastic job, Crystal, of covering everything and given lots of really helpful tips and information. And as you said, I think it's just about making sure that you have a look at the candidate that you're going to be looking at, their prior knowledge and experience, looking at the job roles that you have within your department, sort of knowing what would be the best position to be able to offer, whether it is the level 2 or the level 3, and just, you know, working through it and, you know, talking to FI to be able to decide which is going to be the best training program for your employees to go on to. Because I think, as you can see from what FI have provided, it's a lovely structure with lots of suitable entry points depending on the candidate that you're looking for and the job role that you have. So, you know, you're in safe hands because FI are going to give you the right information for your teams.
Lovely, thank you, Zoe. So I'm going to stop the record and give the opportunity for anyone to ask any questions.